I also write, I'm a columnist. I write for a publication in Canada, and I also write for a publication here in South Africa. To the glory of God, I'm a TEDx talk speaker organized by UNISA. I've published 2 books, and last year I won an award from Think 360 as one of the, in the category of open innovation. I'm a content partner with Life Church in the United States, which licensed me to write a devotional on the YouVersion Bible app. To the glory of God, I have written 6 devotionals on the platform with over 62,000 subscribers. Every Saturday, I get to speak on the radio on the subject of personal development, success, motivation, to name a few. I was once a former manager of a United Kingdom-based company, Tiger with Africa. I oversee the Southern African region for the company. I consult for small-scale organizations on the area of digital marketing. I'm a personal development trainer and the vice president of a Toastmasters club in Rivonia over here in Johannesburg. Just a bit of photo gallery of my profile. This is one of my, when I had my TEDx talk speech. Just to be sure again, can everybody see my screen? Just to be sure.
Yes, go ahead. We can see, sir.
All right, sir. So this is when I was having my TEDx talk speech last year. This is the publication I write for in Canada. It happens to be one of the largest Caribbean newspaper in Toronto. And the publication is always in print every fortnight of over 20,000 copies in print. This is my last article. The publication I write for in South Africa is called Greater Alex Today. 25,000 copies is always in print, also every fortnight. Here are some few picture galleries of my work, where I go to speak on the radio and just in various organizations there and there. And yeah, that's it. And I also need to say this, that I have not come this evening, or Daddy has not invited me on the basis of any of this profile or on the basis of any of these credentials. It is just by the grace of God, and I do not take it for granted. I do not trivialize it in any way. So once again, Daddy, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I'm so grateful for the privilege, and I'm so grateful for the platform to come and share or to come and speak to the people of God. Thank you so much. It is important I say this before I start. The subject around leadership is something that I believe we all keep learning. We all keep learning. Every day, we all keep learning. I'm saying that to say there are aspects that are still kind of a blind spot to me, and I guess to everybody, if I'm not mistaken. So please make allowances for my wisdom gap. Please make allowances for my experiential gap. Please make allowances for my mistakes. I'm not sure if I will make one, but if I do, please make allowances for it. But thank God we have Daddy here that will be able to put, check and balances to everything I say. Just as a form of icebreaker, I want to ask us, this is one of the most contentious questions on the subject of leadership. And the question is always, are leaders born or are leaders made? So I just want to hear from, from everybody.
Bracol, sorry, somebody is saying he can't hear. Is there anybody else that cannot hear us? If you can't hear, try to type in the chat group, and so that I can respond to you, or should you have any concern. Somebody is saying he can't hear, but I can hear you. And I believe every other person can hear. So if you can hear me or you are struggling, just try to put on the chat group. But if you can hear, it means you can hear Brother Cole. So you can go ahead, sir. So I will just respond to any concern at the chat group. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Daddy. So just as a form of icebreaker, I want to ask one of the most contentious questions in the subject of leadership is either leaders are born or either leaders are made. So I want to ask us, not Daddy now, everybody else, do you think leaders are made or do you think leaders are born? If they are made, please give reasons. And if you think they are born, so maybe I should just give a little bit of context. So when I say born, I mean like they are born leaders. They are inherently born with leadership abilities and skill. And if they are made, that means all they have to do, all they have to learn to become like they learned to become a leader. There is no inherent skill in them. So that is just the basic distinction. But I want to hear from everybody. Do you think leaders are born or do you think leaders are made? Yes. Anybody? Maybe you can just share on the chat or you can unmute yourself and just, share your thoughts. Do you think leaders are born or do you think leaders are made? Anybody? Anybody? It should be an interactive session. So I expect like I'll be happy if we can just interact and just communicate. Anybody? Please unmute your mic and share your thoughts. Are leaders born or are leaders made? Anybody?
Are we all there? That's why I said we should show our video. So this should be an interactive section. So we all need to respond. So Bracol, maybe as a way of engaging, you can just call any name. Try to go to the chat. You are free to call any name and so that they will respond.
All right. Sure. Okay. Mrs. Arrow, please, do you want to share what you think either leaders are born or leaders are made? Mrs. Arrow, are you there, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
I think it depends to me. I'll say leaders are made.
Why do you think so, ma'am?
Because I believe growing up with everything around us, people get to like be inspired by what they see, what they hear, what we put in our head. Actually, it's actually what we produce out in some way or the other. So I believe we are made who we are. I don't know if there's any other better way to put it. That's my own understanding, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Brother Matthew or Mr. Matthew, do you please want to share? Do you think leaders are made or do you think leaders are born? Mr. Matthew? Okay. Sister Jennifer or Mrs. Jennifer, I'm not so sure.
Hallelujah.
Amen.
Sister Sikona.
Okay.
Hello, is Brother Matthew on the Brother Benjamin on the line.
Okay, please go for it.
Sir, I would say, from my own opinion, I would say it's both sides. Leaders can be born and leaders can be made. You understand? But if someone is born a leader, that person is already destined to be a leader. Then on the other way around, someone can be made a leader due to the training he or she undergoes. So when you undergo that training as a leader, there is already a tendency that you can become a good leader if you learn from the right source.
Thank you so much, sir. God bless you, sir. Thank you for that perspective. Sister Zikona on the chat says, I think there are natural born leaders and also leaders can be made. All right, I think we have more people saying leaders are born and leaders. I mean, all right, because of time. So here is what research or statistics shows us. So according to McKinsey, these are what they call the top skill of any leaders. And here is something very, very important. To determine how leaders are made, the first most important thing is we need to look at what makes a leader. What makes a good leader? What makes a great leader? What are the things that actually underpin effective leadership? What are the skills for good and great leaders? So according to McKinsey, one of the biggest, largest consulting firm in the world, and these are people that consult for the White House, these are the qualities they list as qualities of a leader. The question therefore is, are these qualities inherent or are they learned? Okay, all right. Let's look at what the Bible gives to us as qualities of good leadership. We have a lot of them. Humble servant, intolerance of wrongdoing, honest and open, protect and provide, merciful and compassionate, knowledgeable, mindful, peacefulness and godliness, respectful, hardworking, all of this we can see on a screen. So therefore, the question we need to ask ourselves is, are these qualities learned or are they inherent while we are being born? So I think the answer is simple. Most of these qualities are learned. So for those who said they are both born and they are both made, we are absolutely right. People may have a destiny of leadership over their life, but there is always the element of tutelage, learning and growing all of these skills to become effective, to become an effective leader. So leaders are born, but for them to be effective in the leadership assignment God has placed on their life, they also need to be made in the sense that they need to undergo training, which is why some of this training is important. Now, here is some basic fundamental truth about every leadership assignment. And this is like my approach to everything that has to do with leadership. To the glory of God, in every place I lead, I get to tell my team, don't forget these truths. Don't let go of these basic fundamentals. If you let go of these, you will drift. Number one fundamental truth about every leadership assignment. Number one, your leadership assignment is time-bound. Embracing this reality should arouse a sense of urgency and a focused commitment to our leadership assignments. You are called to lead. You are called to serve. You are called to occupy a domain. The first and most important thing we all need to grasp, we all need to come to reality with, is that this leadership assignment is time-bound. There is a shelf life for the leadership calling on everybody's life. There was a time that the watchword for CAC is, I must do the work of him that sent me while it is day, for the night cometh when no man shall walk. So the first reality is this: no matter how far you and I are going to go in our leadership terrain, it is time-bound. There is a shelf life to your leadership calling or assignment. Truth number two, the true essence of our leadership assignment is service. Nothing more, nothing less. The Bible says in the book of Matthew chapter 20 to 28, 26 to 28, say, whoever want to become a leader among you must first be your what? Your servants. For the Son of Man come not to be served, but to do what? To serve others and to give his life as a ransom for many. When we see leadership from this lens of service, it helps us to put everything else in perspective. The whole of leadership is all about service. It's all about serving. Christ come to serve. There is no other greater leadership responsibility outside of service. So number one, leadership has a time life, has a shelf life. Number two, the essence of true leadership is service. All other things are just nomenclatures. But the basic is this: leadership is all about service. Which domain you are serving is a different conversation entirely. But at its core, leadership is all about service. Truth number three, God always has an alternative. And leaders, I really want to lay emphasis on this. For every tired Elijah, there is always an Elisha waiting somewhere around the corner. For every disobedient Moses, there is always a Joshua that is ready to occupy. And for every aging Joshua, there is always a Gideon around the corner. No assignment or leadership call is too noble for God that will make the carrier of such assignment indispensable. When Elijah complained that they want to kill me, God said, you know what? It's fine. Just anoint Elisha, it will take over from you. When we embrace this reality, it creates a sense of humility in whatsoever domain God has called us to serve. God always has an alternative. I tell my team this: no matter how noble your responsibility is, there is always somebody somewhere that can do it better. When we embrace this reality, it humbles us and it helps us to understand that we are very, very privileged to serve in the capacity or in the domain God has called us to serve. So let me just do a little recap. Number one, a leadership assignment has a shelf life. Number two, I forget my own point. The essence of leadership is service. And number three, God always has an alternative. So Daddy has said this is going to be more of interactive. Before I go further, before I just keep going, let me pause for a moment and ask, do anybody want to say something, or do anybody want to contribute or maybe share a thought or something based on what I've said so far? It should be more of a dialogue, not a monologue, so to say. So let me just pause here for a moment and ask, do anybody want to add, contribute, or want me to clarify something based on what I've shared in the last 12 minutes or so? Yes, before I move on. Anybody? Anybody? Anybody want to share, say something? Or are we all good? Can I see like maybe a thumb up or something on the chat, just to be sure that we are all good on the same page? I should move on. Are we all good? Are we all good? Can I continue? Can I continue? All right, great, great. Thank you. I'm seeing some thumb ups. All right, thank you. Brother Vioma, I saw your hand up. Do you want to say something, sir?
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
I want to ask a question. There was a time I was logged out. I don't know, maybe that was the time my network logged me out automatically. I didn't really get your own position on the issue of whether leaders are born or leaders are made. I don't think there was a point where I got that clearly. So that's what I want to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So my position is, and not just my position, but based on research, based on findings, based on statistics, leaders are made. Even if they have an inherent calling upon their life, there is so much of lesson, there is so much of things they have to undergo, which is not inherent from childhood. So for the most part, leaders are made. Yes, they can be born leaders. They may have a leadership calling over their life, but if they are really going to function effectively, they really have to undergo the process of being made. Yes, so that is my position. I'm seeing some, let me see what I have there. All right, cool. Thank you, Brother Vioma. Do anybody have any other thoughts to share before I move on, or should we go ahead? All right. So here's the thing. Okay, before we go there, Our assignment is not limited to just religious vocation. Some are called to the marketplace and some are called as ministers. But one of the common themes around any leadership assignments is service. When we look at leadership through the lens of service, it brings everything into focus. So I understand that the domain we occupy right now may be a religious space, but God is an ambidextrous God. God loves variety. God called Esther to the palace. He called David to be a king. So God has different intention in mind. He called Jeremiah as a prophet. So the most important thing is we need to understand or recognize the fact that God can use us in any different domain. Now, I'm going to be using some of my life or some of the little experiences God has taken me through, just to buttress my point and just to, drive home some of the things I'll be sharing with us. A few years ago, I crafted a mission statement for my life. And this comes from a place of reflection and taking an inventory of my own life, for the last few decades. And here is what I come up with. I say that my mission statement on this earth, my mission on this earth is to empower and inspire people to help them maximize their gift, talent, and potential, to ensure that they operate at their peak performance and to become who God has called them to be. This is what I believe is my own leadership assignment, my calling. I'll be telling you why I'm sharing this with you. But the first question I want to answer is, how am I going to do this? How am I going to help people maximize their gift? John Maxwell defined leadership to be influence. And if we really draw down, influence is all about service. So how have I been able to empower, inspire people over the course of my leadership assignment or leadership service? Number one, I've been able to empower people, inspire people, help them to become who God wants them to be by leveraging on platform locally and internationally. Let me say this. As children of God, as Christians, the need to go global is no longer an option, but rather a necessity. God said to his disciples, go to all the nations and make disciples. The need to craft a place, to own a place at the international sphere is a necessity, not just an option. So I've been able to empower people in different spheres of life by leveraging on platform at a local level. I'm talking locally in South Africa, but also connecting at an international platform. I'll be speaking more about this later on. So let's look at some numbers about one of the things I do. Every second week, my newspaper in Canada is being read by 20,000 people. Here in South Africa, 25,000 people. So within a period of, let me say, 2 weeks, to the glory of God, I reached to a larger number of 45,000 people. But not that alone. I speak on a radio station that has a 50-kilometer, frequency reaching up to 130,000 people every Saturday. And my YouVersion devotional, which I just released the last one, has a total number of 62,000 subscribers. So this is the way I've been able to maximize and just lead through my own area of influence or through my own areas of calling. Number two, I form strategic alliances. While sharing my introduction, I make mention that I'm partner with Life Church in the United States. I'm partner with YouVersion. I'm a Canadian representative. I'm a South African representative of a company in Canada. So there are different forms of organizations, I partner with just to maximize my voice, to maximize my influence, and to maximize what God has put in my heart to do. So one of the most important things in our leadership journey, if we are really, really going to maximize the call, the assignments that God has called us to fulfill, we need to form strategic alliances, and two, we need to look at leverage in different domains that we occupy. I'm going to draw down a little bit on the subject of leadership here. I'm going to come back to it, but I really want to quickly speak on the subject of commitment, also under the umbrella of leadership. Now, this is the way I craft it. I said there are 3 blocks of commitment. Number 1, the loyalty-based commitment, the vision-driven commitment, and the reward-based commitment. The loyalty-based commitment, the vision-driven commitment, and the reward-based commitment. Let's take it one after the other. Number 1, the loyalty-based commitment. Who are people who are committed based on loyalty? There is something very important I really want to say here, leaders. Loyalty is a very tricky thing. And this is something I have realized over time. Here's the thing. There are people who are loyal to you. And as a consequence, they will be committed to whatsoever God has called you to do. But there are those who are loyal to the need of you. Now, these are 2 different kinds of people. There are those who are loyal to you. They are genuinely loyal to what you are doing. Like they are genuinely loyal to you. And there are those who are just loyal to their need of you. Now, the problem with the latter is that once their need is met, they resign their loyalty and commitment and off the go. Permit me to say a Nigerian proverb that says, in Yoruba, there is, oh, Daddy, please, with your permission, allow me to, quote this proverb just as a way of, driving home my point. There is this saying that we say, Igida Eyefo. I'm not sure if, so what that simply means is that there are people that, how am I going to explain this now in English that will help people who are not, of the Yoruba descent understand? So there are people that their loyalty is just based because they need something. They are not really committed to the cause, so to say. They are committed to their need of what they want to get. So as long as their need is being met, they remain committed, they remain loyal. But once those needs are met, off the go. It takes wisdom to discern the difference between these 2 people. So this is number 1 block of commitment, the loyalty-based commitment. Number 2 block, the reward-based commitment. These are people who are paid for certain work or duty. Their commitment is only to the degree of their reward or compensation. They are committed not because they really buy into the vision or they buy into your calling or they buy into your leadership role. They are committed because there is a reward. Their commitment is transactional. Their relationship is transactional, nothing more, nothing less. They are not really invested in the call. They are not really invested in your leadership. They are only invested in what they are there to get. It is reward-based commitment. And the last block of commitment is what I call the vision-driven commitment. Now, this is something like the Jonathan and David form of relationship and commitment. These are people that carry the vision with you. Come rain, come shine. They will always be there. Now, here's the thing. When we have those people, we have tendencies to trivialize their role. Because, there is a saying that says familiarity breeds contempt. When people are too familiar, when you see them being committed to what you do, sometimes there is this form of belittling. There is this form of way they are being reduced before us. So these people are people who stick by you, who are there with you, driven by reward. They are not driven by any form of external compensation. They buy into your vision. They understand the call of God upon your life. They understand the assignment God has given to you. And as a consequence, they stick with you. They stick with you. So these are the 3 blocks of commitment I have crafted. But here's the most important thing. How can we reignite commitment toward church growth and development? God may be calling you to serve, within the sphere of a church. God may be calling you to serve in a place of leadership outside of church. But irrespective of the domain you occupy, how can you reignite commitment towards church, or maybe towards any environment or towards any assignment God has placed on your life. Now, some of the points I'll be sharing with you are some of the principles I apply here, even in church or even at work. But let me say this, this is very, very important. This is very, very important. Experiences are unique. Principles are universal. Let me say that again. Experiences are unique. Principles are universal. I tell leaders, I tell people around my team, I say to public speakers, be careful when you share your experience as a principle. The way God deals with me is a curated, is a customized experience. I tell people, be careful not to teach your experience as a universal principle. It always takes wisdom to understand the difference. Principles answers across all platforms. Principles are universal. The law of what's the name of this principle? You know, when you go up, you come down. What's this Newton principle again? They are basic
Gravity.
Gravity. Thank you, sir. Gravity. So those are universal. Those are universal. The law of atrophy, the law of thermodynamics, there's Archimedes' law of flotation. Why, you know, ships as heavy as that float on water. Those are basic principles. Principles are universal. Experiences are unique. When people share their experiences, they need to put a caveat that this is my experience. It doesn't mean you should extract it and apply. It may not work for you, but find wisdom in what I'm sharing. And I'm not talking about this like when people are sharing their experience, find wisdom in whatever they are sharing and see if it is replicable for you. So whenever I talk people about, you know, my experience, I always love, you know, putting that caveat that, listen, this is my experience. God deal with me in a customizable way. It doesn't mean that is how we deal with everybody. All right, having said that, let me go to my first point. Number one, to foster commitment, engage people in the area of their most dominant gift. As a minister of God here in Santen, I know my most area of calling and giftings, which is teaching, leadership, coordination, and training. I have blind spot. I have areas I'm still working on. And when I'm selecting my team, I look for the areas they are best, like they can best function. Areas that they need little or no training to really engage. So the first way to drive commitment in any given assignment is to put people where you know they can best flourish. To put people where you know that this is like their most dominant area of calling, their most dominant area of giftings. This is very important. If people have to undergo a lot of intensive training to really operate at a place you want them to operate, number one, there is time, investment, there is so much of commitment that goes into that. But the most important thing is look for where people are most good at and engage them in such area. Number two, avoid micromanaging delegated responsibilities. Here is the thing. Delegation is not abdication. But when responsibilities is being delegated, give people a sense of autonomy in what you have asked them to do. When you ask people to do a thing, don't micromanage them. Give them the space to explore their creativity. Give them the space to flow, to explore. When people felt micromanaged, it's cripple their way of expression. It's cripple their flow. Let me put it that way. So let's avoid micromanaging delegated responsibilities. In my team here, we have departmental heads. And we always have our briefing. Our service starts at 9. We have our briefing at 8:30. Everybody know what they have to do. I don't need to think about which music are we going to play on Sunday. I don't need to rent a space in my head for that. Somebody knows that already. All I just need that after the service, let's debrief. What can we do differently? How can we make this better? Change that music. We shouldn't micromanage delegated responsibilities. The next one is this: praise in public, correct in private. Human beings are fallible. we should always try as much as possible to make allowances for people's error. To err is human. So to foster commitment in people, praise them in public, but give corrections in private. When people ego or self-esteem is hurt, like when you bruise people's self-esteem, they relapse in their level of commitment. You want to praise people, amplify it. You want to correct them, bring it in private. The next one is this: reward excellence. Now, this may not be common in, okay, don't let me use the word. Rewarding people is key. Rewarding excellence is key. It's creating a form of reward system and encourage people to go the extra mile, even if they are volunteers. Even if they are volunteers, when people do something well and they do it very, very good, reward excellence. Tell them that, oh, you've done this well, this is for you, that is for you. It helps people to keep going, and it really, really encourage them to keep doing what they are being called to do. The last one is this: encourage people to consider switching roles. To drive commitment in people, sometimes when a role becomes too monolithic, when a role becomes too routine, there is always an element of getting bored. There's always an element of boringness. So the principle therefore is, when people have served so long in a particular space or domain, encourage them to think of switching roles, just to explore and to stretch their space of influence as well. I have realized over time that this really, really, really works well. The last one is this: show love and genuine care. When people feel they are loved, we don't really need to do extended motivation, to drive their commitments. Genuine care, genuine love is the most important thing of all these points. When people feel that they are being led by someone who genuinely care about their life, not just, project-driven, love or deadline-driven kind of love, like genuinely love people, it shows, it drives commitment, and it's really, really show, it helps the team to grow. Now, here's the last area of my talk before we move to maybe question and answer and, just more interaction. Spiritual maturity for effective building. This is very key. Meet people where they are spiritually, not where you want them to be. Now, the reality is this: we are all at different stage in our spiritual journey. Where my assistant is not where I am. Where my, other co-workers team, we are all in a different spiritual understanding, spiritual knowledge of God. We are all in a different sphere. To really, really encourage team building, foster growth, foster commitment, meet people where they are. Understand their, I remember when I come to become the Santin leader, whenever I speak or preach on Sunday, I will preach in a sense whereby I am of the assumption that they understand certain basic things. It is later I begin to realize that no, these people don't really understand what I think they understand. So wisdom demands that you come to their level and explain it, even if it is the most simplistic way, for them just to, grasp what you're trying to say. Here is something I've realized over time. Leaders, we should not confuse what is easy for us for what is easy at all. Let me say that again. We should not confuse what is easy for us for what is easy at all. They are two different things. It is easy for you, it is easy for me, but it doesn't make it easy anyway. So when we understand that, it helps us to be a little bit more accommodative and make allowances for people's shortcomings. Here's the last thing. We can't lead others to where we have not been. It takes a certain level of dominance, experience, and authority in our area of assignment to successfully lead others. The most important thing is this. Everybody who God want to use as a leader for any assignment, he always take them through a series of training. And I keep saying to my team, even at work, even in the church, that if you can't serve well, you can't lead well. If you can't follow well, you can't lead well. There is no middle way around it. People who struggle with being a mentee always have problem being a good mentor. We cannot lead people to where we have not been. And to get to certain places in life, we need the help and the assistance of others. So the closing therefore is, we have a leadership calling, we have a leadership assignment, identifying the domain God has called you to serve, look for, serve under the places God has called you to serve. And at the right time, God will begin to open doors for your leadership influence. But here's the thing. All of this boils down to one thing. Leadership is all about service. When you and I see leadership from that lens, it makes everything come into focus, and it really brings a sense of humility to what God has asked us to do. Thank you so much, family. Thank you so much, Daddy, once again for the opportunity. And I'm so grateful to be able to share a little of what, I've prepared. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Daddy.
Yeah, God bless you, sir. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. It is well with you in Jesus' name. I want to believe every one of us, we have listened to Evangelist Paul. Thank you for that impactful teaching. And thank you for opening our eyes to some certain things about leadership, commitment, and spiritual growth. And I pray that that which you have learned today will go a long way in our life in the mighty name of the Lord Jesus Christ. We'll be open for question and answer now. So I expect everybody to be on video. I want to believe we pick one thing or the other in being a leader, learning from his life experience, and also learning from that which he has exposed us to in terms of how to lead our people and also how to be a better leader. Please let